Welcome to another episode of At Your Doorstep. I'm your host, Keely Nix. This is the show where we tackle all things last mile delivery, warehouse automation, gig economy, and shipping in the modern world. Today's episode is a special one. We've got two guests on talking about an exciting partnership combining warehouse automation with wearable tech. But first, let's get to some of today's top headlines on modernshipper.com. Starting off with the B2B communication platform, Surefront is introducing a product lifecycle management platform to reduce carbon footprint and extend the life of product cycles. This product lifecycle management platform allows manufacturers to track the life of a product from concept all the way through to ready for market, helping people understand where hangups are and how they can become more sustainable. Brian Straight has that story up on modernshipper.com. Also up on modernshipper.com is an article from Director of Passport Research, JP Hampstead. He writes that ShipHero has raised $50 million in funds. This marks the first institutional money that ShipHero has raised, valuing the company at $225 million. Now, their approach is unique. ShipHero offers flat rate shipping and product fulfillment from one location. That is, customers take their product to one centralized drop-off site and they turn it around in 2 days, all for one flat rate price. You can also find that story up on modernshipper.com as well. Welcome back for another episode of At Your Doorstep. This one's super exciting because it's our first double interview episode. And I'm here with Gabe Grifoni and Lior Elazari. Gabe is the founder and CEO at Rufus Labs, and Lior is the co-founder of inVia Robotics. Super excited to have them both here because they just announced a partnership between their two companies, taking warehouse automation broadly. Guys, welcome to At Your Doorstep.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it being on the show.
It's exciting to have you guys here. First things first, to give us just a brief introduction about each of you and then your companies and what you guys do there.
Sure. Lior, you want to start?
Yeah. So Lior Elazari, a serial entrepreneur. My company right now we're doing robotics for fulfillment services, right? So everybody that orders things online, right? It's very easy. You click add to cart and you wonder why your item doesn't show up as soon as possible. Well, often it's because there's a lot of warehouses, a lot of work that has to be done behind the scene. I mean, you basically are hiring personal shoppers. So we provide robots to do those works and those tasks for you, to go in, do the shopping, and bring those orders to your door as quickly as possible.
My name's Gabe Grifoni. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at Rufus Labs. And we build wearable technology for what we like to call a superhuman workforce. You know, how do we take the humans that are working in warehouses today, make them more efficient and productive on the job, and at the same time keep them safer on the job? That's the overall goal here at Rufus. So we're able to get a much higher throughput from employees, and especially in the last year, since logistics has gone kind of nuts in supply chain as well. So we're really focused on how we get workers more productive and keep them safe on the job.
I love that idea of the superhuman workforce, right? We're not adding technology to take away your jobs or to take away what you're doing. We're really adding this to be an asset to you. So, Gabe, people get kind of scared when they hear about this tech integration when it comes to warehouses, right? Like, what's going to happen? Is a robot going to take over my daily duties? Talk to us a little bit about how Rufus isn't technology replacing people. It's technology adding to that human capital and even making them more valuable.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that's a lot about what this partnership, is about. Automation is coming, whether you fear it or not. I think you fear it if you don't embrace it. I think being able to make your facility have the tools that it needs to be able to handle what the future warehouse is going to be like is really important now. So automation is coming, and I think that if you can give humans tools that connect them to IoT, connect them to robots like inVia, which is why we have this awesome partnership here, and really understand where they are and how they're moving around the floor, that's how you're going to not fear the automation that's coming. You're going to be able to take the human capital you have, make them stronger, better, and safer on the job, and let robots do some of the heavy lifting and work together with those humans.
So let's talk about that human capital and the shortage of it right now. Lior, you guys provide those robots that get the technology onto the floor, right? And right now we're seeing a huge shortage of people wanting to work and joining the workforce, which leaves holes that robots and technology can fill. Talk to me a little bit about any trends that you see in the labor market. Are people going to all of a sudden want to come back to work and then find, hey, there's not as much space for me anymore because this technology has taken over my warehouse space? Or is it more of just like we have the opportunity to fill this void, so let's fill it with technology?
Yeah, so we still have a shortage. And by the way, as many people as we can, we're always in our company. I know Rufus and in the warehouses, because really what's happening is something we have never really done before, right? Is to be able to be personal shoppers for everybody else, right? Before we used to go to the store, we used to do that labor. Now everybody wants to do that labor. And it's going to be very hard to live in a society where half of the world is ordering things online and the other half is running around in warehouses, right, picking those items for us. So what's happening instead is there's a very shortage of labor. And what we're trying to do is how do we amplify their work? How do we make their work be able to fulfill, instead of one order at a time, fulfill thousands of orders at a time? And this is where we're bringing in actually the robotics to do some of the legwork for them, literally, right? So instead of them walking around trying to do the shopping, we're basically moving those items. And with the Rufus devices, we're able to coordinate and work with the people in general. So it's not like, we have zero people inside the warehouse. We still need people in there, and using the Rufus devices and using the robots, we're kind of combining the two in order to create a very powerful person that can fulfill many, many orders at the same time. And that's basically how we're going to able to sustain this. And obviously, after COVID, everybody experienced it. We had even a harder shortage. And not only that, a lot of stores closed. So we had even more volumes that we had to fulfill. So this is basically how we're able to handle those shortages.
And so, Gabe, talk to me a little bit about this wearable tech that Rufus is producing. Give me an explanation of what it is, how it works, and then how it's going to help support those workers as they're doing their jobs.
Sure. So our wearable technology is Android-based and barcode scanning. So the Android-based system allows us to, run applications like inVia's PickMate, which runs on our device and kind of communicates with their robots. So workers will be going around the floor. They'll be guided on their arm and scanning with our devices. We have software that runs in the background that's gathering information on how those workers are picking, how they're moving, where we can find inefficiencies. So we're doing that in the back end, and inVia is running on there. So those robots are picking orders overnight or during other times of the day. Lior can probably shed more details on that side of things. And the humans and the robots are kind of meeting at places where they're picking up orders that the robots have kind of put together. So those pickers are doing a lot less legwork, as Lior mentioned. And at the same time, we're starting to understand more about the workers and where they are and how they're operating, so we can continue to optimize, that flow. It frees up the workers' hands. It lets them do their jobs about 1.5 times faster traditionally we see. And now with inVia, we'll be able to more than 2x our joint partners' productivity.
And I'm sure that as a laborer in this warehouse space too, that makes your job so much easier, right? If you're used to walking 10, 12, 15 miles a day and throughout the warehouse floor trying to pick all these orders, and you're going to find yourself enjoying your job more and being more productive just by virtue of not having to do so much physical labor, right? So, Lior, talk to me a little bit about what the warehouse automation space looks like when it comes to competition between different companies, right? We hear a lot about these other people putting robots on warehouse floors everywhere. Are there leaders and laggers in the industry, or is this kind of like the space race, right? Where as long as you're getting tech in the warehouse, you're considered a success and you want to see people moving forward with that?
So it's definitely not just about the tech. It's definitely about productivity, right? Because at the end of the day, we got to get those orders out the door as quickly as possible, right? As the SLAs are starting to become like 1 hour, right? People are expecting those items to be there. The tech has to work. It can't just be anything. And the industry is sort of broken down into goods to person and persons to goods. So person to goods, more of the older technologies where you're walking to the locations of where the items are. You're still picking them, but you might be assisted by a robot that's either following you or leading you, basically, being a shopping cart, right, that you don't have to carry. So it's helping you in that sense. We operate more on the goods to person systems where we're actually bringing in the items for people to pick. So imagine instead of going to the supermarket and having to walk around through all the different aisles to pick them, we'll already take all these items that you want to take, prepare those, put them on one shelf. So you're just going to your shelf, you're able to pick those. And then with the Rufus device, it's basically guiding you virtually on the display. That's why it's actually really important that we're using very high-end displays so we can virtualize, show them exactly what they have to pick and what they have to do, and work with the robots together. So the robots are constantly bringing you things in, and the Rufus device kind of telling you what you have to pick for those particular orders, and you're working on many orders at the same time and fulfilling that. So the industry is kind of broken into that. There's definitely, some leaders, I consider us as one of them, because we have tremendous amount of throughput increases for people. So by the end of the day, when we introduce all those technologies, we get people to operate at more than 10x productivity of what they're doing, right? So it's a huge difference. Imagine, so one order, you're doing 10 times the orders at the same time. And that's really almost unheard of in there. And I think there's some laggers, even, some really big names that you expect would introduce technology. They're still a little bit, late to the game, but there are other ones that are, from a customer's point of view, that basically want to get this as quickly as possible.
So this question is going to go to both of you guys. I'd want an answer from both of y'all's perspectives. Talk to me a little bit about the receptiveness of this technology. Are there warehouse managers that are really, really excited to get it in and start putting this partnership together with what's already going on in their warehouses? Or is there any type of hesitancy for attracting this technology and implementing it in their warehouses?
Yeah, so I mean, we typically see, the warehouse managers very excited, because imagine what they have to do. They have to fulfill all these orders. They have, they almost get they usually get about 100% turnover. So most of the people that they hire in 6 months usually rotate. They don't want to, you can imagine if you have to walk around all day in and day out, you don't last that long. So now with this technology, like you mentioned, they're actually happier. They like to be at work because, first of all, they're not doing the same task over and over again. They can go picking, go do packing, because they're so much more efficient. And that helps people operate better in those facilities. So we see people very, very excited for this technology across the board. I mean, from the CEOs who are trying to reduce their costs, right, to do that, and from the warehouse managers who are just trying to get their warehouse to operate like in a sane environment, as opposed to like a zoo with everybody just trying to run around, trying to pick as fast as possible.
Yeah, and I'll second that. From 2019 to 2021, it's almost been a world of difference from there too, right? The same issues we've had, like Lior mentioned too, labor shortages, old technology, now are basically, there's a lantern hung on them because there's a 15 times demand. So labor shortage is even more apparent. So I think the desire and the openness of operations managers and warehouses and all the way up has changed drastically even over the last 2 years. We've seen customer demand kind of increase for the types of tools we have. I think when we were talking to customers in 18 and 19, we're a subscription service just like inVia is, and that was even different and maybe not what people expected or maybe wanted. But now it's totally flipped. People want to automate. They want to always have new tech. They want to spend less money now on CapEx that they know things are going to be, in 2 years, they're going to have to replace anyway. So we've seen a huge surge in demand for many reasons, and they've just been exacerbated over the last year. So I think especially a joint solution, and we already have, a customer that's in good success now and a few more that are rolling out together. Those are going to be really awesome stories to talk about too. So we're expecting a lot more interest in kind of especially the joint solution.
Can you give me any insight into who may be rolling out this solution, or is it kind of hush-hush now?
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know exactly if it's hush-hush, so maybe I think for now it's remain hush-hush because there's some big ones. But at the same time, I think that what really exciting about this partnership is before, in order to do something like this, you had to go in and collect pieces from here and there, not to collect a separate, iPad and collect a separate scanner and collect a separate robot and a separate software system. Now, by this partnership, we're basically able to offer more of like a warehouse in a box. So our customers can do what they want to do best, right? Which is ship as many orders as possible. They don't have to worry about, how do I put all this technology together? And we're able to bring them just out of the box running so they can be up and running very quickly. So that's, I think, the really exciting piece about this.
And of course, it's a flexible tech solution too, right? Because of that subscription model, warehouse managers really have the flexibility to deploy it as they see fit, as much as they need or as little as they need to fit their solutions.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a very good point, because a lot of times with traditional automation, you have to project 10 years into the future. You have to install things today, cost you hundreds of millions of dollars. And it wasn't for what you're doing today, it's what you're projecting to do at 10 million. And as COVID taught us, everything can change 180 degrees over like a course of a few months. So the beautiful thing about this is they're able to fulfill what they need today and get the technology that they need today, get their orders. And as they expand, they can always add more robots, more Rufus devices, and work with that as opposed to try to predict what's going to happen tomorrow.
100%. Guys, I really appreciate both of you coming on the show today. It's great to hear about this partnership, and we're obviously going to keep an eye on it going forward. Maybe as soon as we get some of those details about what's launching and who's planning to utilize this partnership as part of their subscription model, we can have you guys back on again to talk about that actual deployment. Thank you guys so much again for joining us on At Your Doorstep, and we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks for joining me on this episode of At Your Doorstep. Make sure that you catch At Your Doorstep every Tuesday afternoon right here on FreightWaves TV. You can also find all of the episodes on demand on FreightWaves.com or anywhere that you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Make sure that you're connecting with me on LinkedIn and on Twitter, and we'll see you next week.